But the story today is with regards to Bajaj Auto, how it is going to go and support a KTM and whether it is going to support a KTM or not. So let's first head across to Puneet to get more details. Puneet, the aspiration and the expectation is that Bajaj Auto is going to come to the rescue with regards to where KTM goes. Today is the hearing. What are the key things that you're picking up and what is that setup looking like, which probably alludes to a Bajaj entering?
Well, I think the first move with the chess play has already been done today, because last night the Bajaj Auto came out with a filing that its Netherlands subsidiary has provided a 50 million euro or roughly about 456 crore loan to Pierre Bajaj AG, which is the subsidiary in which they own a stake in. Now, this is under the current restructuring process specifically for KTM AG. And just to give some context specifically, Bajaj on Friday itself, last Friday, had announced an investment of 150 million euros in its Netherlands subsidiary Bajaj International AG, which has now, of course, given that loan in terms of KTM AG as well. And this comes after KTM had filed bankruptcy in the month of November of 2024. Currently, the structure stands as the Bajaj has an international subsidiary, which is Bajaj Auto International, owns 49.9% stake in Pierre Bajaj AG. The other 50.1% stake is held by Pierre Industry AG, and together these two entities hold 74% stake in the listed entity Pierre Mobility AG, which houses the KTM business as well globally across the world. Now, the partnership has been operational since 2007. Bajaj sells the KTM as well as the Husqvarna brand in India specifically. And just to give some context on the bankruptcy, KTM AG had filed an application on November of 29 of 2024 for judicial restructuring effectively. They mentioned financial requirements of KTM AG currently amount to roughly high three-digit million figures. So there has been some issues with the business in terms of sales, and the high debt has finally impacted and caught up with the company. They mentioned that the financial requirement will be much higher than anticipated as well, and they mentioned that a reduction in operating performance at its Austrian subsidiary could cost the company over €1 billion over the next 2 years. That's one of the key aspects. In fact, Bajaj roughly sells about 60 to 70,000 units in India, where it recognizes the revenue, but globally it does not manufacture any kind of units for KTM. That's taken care of by KTM as well as the company itself. And what's important is in Q3 we saw a 50% drop in exports for KTM because of this challenging aspect as well. Now, back in June, company had expected a 10 to 15% fall, but KTM had removed this guidance as well. Now, just finally, what are the two key impacts that could have because of Bajaj could eventually end up owning the KTM brand globally as well. Now, the good outcomes is, of course, that the Bajaj gets global ownership of a premium brand like KTM and can have access to developed markets with a ready product. Specifically, right now it's catering to Latin America and Africa with products like the Pulsar as well as the Boxer, which are the lower CC products. But this could help them pivot and compete with the likes of TVS, which has the Norton brand, which is expected to come out with models by the end of the year. But the bad outcomes could be the inefficient use of cash. Roughly 1,300 crores has been invested in the Netherlands subsidiary for a business that will require a lot more cash going forward, and that's something to watch out for as well. But Pierre has mentioned reduction in operating performance in 2025 and 2026 as well. So it's an interesting juncture at which the company stands currently. It has 20,000 crores of cash, so it can definitely afford it. But the aspect is that investments in EV have been going on the sidelines. So that's something to watch out for with regards to this particular transaction.
Interesting point, but a quick follow-up, Puneet. I heard you mention that there's going to be a considerable loss that it will have to bear. Bajaj will have to spend quite a considerable amount of money over the course of the next couple of years. What was that figure and how did you arrive at it?
So specifically, this was an exchange filing which was done by Pierre Mobility AG. And they had given two key figures. One is that they're expecting three-digit million losses. So could be anywhere above 100 million to about €1 billion in losses, specifically because of restructuring of the business. The second key aspect that Pierre Mobility AG has given, which is listed on the Swiss National Exchange, is that they're expecting $1 billion, €1 billion especially in terms of operating profit impact That's what they mentioned. So this will mean loss of revenues over the next 2 years because the inventory had been built up essentially over the last 2 years that did not get liquidated, and working capital needs is where they got caught. So, essentially this might consolidate the revenue figures, the working capital figures and profitability figures. But that's the guidance that PR Mobility AG had given. For Bajaj, it will essentially mean if they want to take this company on, they will have to take those challenges as well going forward.
It's an interesting point that you raise, and I'm glad that you pointed out both the positives as well as the negatives. It sounds great on paper, but ultimately there is going to be a period of pain that they will have to go through in order to resuscitate this brand. Thanks so much, Puneet, for putting that into perspective.